All right, let's dive into forming and operating a successful 501c3. We're going to call this Top Tips for a Successful 501c3, Part 1, Boards, Missions, and Raising Money. I got Karim Hanafy on here, the nonprofits director over at Anderson Business Advisors, and we're going to dive in. What do you got for us today, Karim?
All right. Hey, Toby. It's good to see you again. Good to talk with you. Today we're going to be covering about or discussing kind of the strategies for success for a nonprofit. And, just a little background, we've done numerous videos that have discussed the benefits of setting up a nonprofit. We've done it for setting up a family foundation, even for different types of nonprofits. So now we just want to take it a step further. So now you've set up your nonprofit, and now what? What are going to be the next steps? So first, we're going to briefly cover the first steps, but then we're going to be focusing on those activities you should implement to help your nonprofit succeed. So as we start with the first steps, just the basic fundamentals here. We're talking about you want to decide on a name, of course, selecting the officers and the directors, establishing your nonprofit. And of course, we're going to tell you need to incorporate this in a state. Don't do unincorporated associations. Don't do trusts. Don't do LLCs. Set them up as a nonprofit corporation. We obtain the EIN, prepare the bylaws, so it's going to govern how you're going to be operating internally, and then apply for exemption and obtain your 501c3. So now at this point, your contributions will be tax deductible. In this way, you can solicit contributions. So, now you're a nonprofit. Your nonprofit is a 501c3. Congratulations. So now what? So again, we'll talk about the tax benefits just really quickly, really briefly, is that any cash contributions that you make to your nonprofit, it's going to be tax deductible. Now it depends on what you donate, and it depends on the type of entity. If it's a public charity, 60% of your adjusted gross income you can donate to a public charity, 30% you can donate to a private foundation. And if you're going to donate non-cash, like appreciated assets that you've held for more than a year, then 30% that you can donate to a public charity and 20% to a private foundation. Now, keep in mind, this carries forward. So if you donate, say, appreciated assets, and it's 100% of your adjusted gross income, well, it carries forward, so you can still deduct it in the following years if you can't deduct it in that first year. And the beauty of appreciated assets is nonprofit can sell it tax-free and use these proceeds tax-free. You don't pay taxes to conduct your charitable activities.
So if I bought a stock for $1,000 and now it's worth 10,000, if I've held it for more than a year, I could donate that to my charity and get a $10,000 deduction.
Yes, you can. So you can avoid paying taxes on it, and you get to deduct the fair market value, not what you paid for it, but the fair market value. And then, of course,
and if it's too much, and I can't, I'm limited to 30% of my adjusted gross income, and let's just say that I was only able to use half my donation this year, the other half would flow forward into future years.
Yeah.
And same rule, but I could apply it to how many years can I go forward? Is it
like you get 5 years? Yeah. So years 2 through 6. So you have up to the 6th year to be able to get that deduction.
All right.
Yeah. So it works favorably for you. And then, of course, if the nonprofit owns it and it's worth 10,000 when they received it, and now it's worth 100,000, so they get all this $90,000 in capital gains, they don't pay any taxes on any of that, and they can take it and reinvest it, or they can use it for charitable activities. So now for your next steps again, we call it the strategies for success. And we're going to be doing several videos covering the strategy. So this is just the first part of our series. So the first thing, just kind of starting at the very top, very basic, you need an effective board. When I say effective board, you just want them to be actively engaged. You want to communicate among these board members. Engage in fundraising, and it could be small. So it doesn't have to be like this big gala where you rent out a banquet room at a hotel. No, it could be something small, like you're just going to email potential donors, or you're applying for grants from funders. So you can do something like that. And of course, you can add volunteers and even fundraisers who can help to do this for you as well. So having more people to collaborate with you to be a part of this is going to help you to become more effective. And then, of course, give them assignments and hold them accountable. Make sure, as you have, you come up with tasks, you come up with things that you want to get done. You don't want to be doing it all yourself. If you have other board members, let them be a part of it.
How many people do you have on a board, Great.
It depends on the state. So Nevada only requires one. Other states like Florida and New York would require you to have three directors. So it depends on which state that you're going to incorporate in. Now, realistically, I mean, you can have one, but if you can add more, even in a state that requires only one, it's going to be encouraged because then you can operate more effectively that way. So it really depends on the state where you incorporate. All right. Now, the tips for running effective board meetings, to get things accomplished, because that's what you want. Now, you can meet, the states basically say that you have to have an annual meeting. But to be effective, you need to meet more often than that. You need to meet, for example, it could be every 6 months, it could be every quarter, it could be every month. The more meetings that you have, the more you're going to get done. And you want to make sure as you do this, because it's going to help you get things accomplished, you want to make sure that you have tasks and assignments. And again, having these communications with board members. So you want to have a purpose, describing the purpose of what the purpose of the meeting is going to be, having an agenda, letting them know in advance what the meeting is going to be about. And then you realize you may only have an hour, for example, with a lot of these meetings. And there's going to be a lot of small talk and chatter. So you want to prioritize. This is important. A lot of times the important things usually end up on the back end and they don't have time to discuss these things because they're discussing other things. So always prioritize those most important topics to ensure they're covered. And then, of course, at the end, you want to delegate duties and responsibilities and make sure they are accountable to be able to get things done, to get these tasks accomplished for the next meeting. And of course, again, throughout, in between meetings, you want to make sure you're constantly in communication with other board members to make sure that you get these things done.
Karim, can I have family members on my board?
Absolutely. In fact, we do encourage it. And I was going to even mention that as well. Bring on family members for sure. Let them be a part of it. Let them, get involved. There's no state that prohibits it. And certainly the IRS doesn't prohibit it. If you want to have all family members on the board, they can be a part of it. Just always remember, you're always a fiduciary serving in the best interests of the nonprofit. So you want to make sure that what you're doing is in furtherance of the charitable purpose for the nonprofit. Another thing is adding family member or adding volunteers. And as you mentioned just a second ago about adding family members, there are many of our clients, hundreds of clients, they always talk about creating a family legacy. What they want is they want to start this charity, this foundation. They want to include their family members. They want them to be a part of it from inception up to the success of it, to be able to launch these programs. So they want them to be involved. So as you do this, again, make sure everyone has roles, responsibilities, keep them actively engaged. As you're seeing, I'm repeating the same things again. Ongoing training and development is an important thing too. And it doesn't necessarily have to be with you, but there are hundreds of resources out there, free webinars, workshops that are out there to help with training and development for volunteers and for board members as well. So there's always resources out there to kind of get them involved, to help them understand too. And of course, recognize and appreciate the work that they're doing too. And, for many of you who may be thinking, how can I find volunteers? There are websites. These are just 5. There's even more than this, to be able to find volunteers to get involved with your nonprofit. Now, as you do this, of course, we're kind of going back to what we mentioned about an effective board. You want to make sure you can articulate what the organization does, what the mission is, what it hopes to accomplish, so that you can be able to get people to be a part of it.
And there's a lot of people, especially students and folks, where they're actually required to do charitable time. Sometimes it's part of their degree. Sometimes they're doing it just to pad their resume. But there's lots of folks out there that actually need this type of work to help them on whatever career path they're on. And then there's just the really nice people out there that have some extra time, and maybe this is a social activity. They want to feel good about themselves, and they're always looking for things to do. And to the extent that you're able to put those folks and give them something to do, you don't have to pay them.
Yeah. And you make an excellent point with that too, Toby, is that a lot of students want to put this on their resume because, more and more so it's becoming more and more competitive, whether you're applying to universities, you're applying to med school, law school, whatever it is for a graduate program. It's becoming more and more competitive, and seeing stuff like this where they are volunteering to work for nonprofits and to showing the kind of work that they're doing, certainly is going to help. In fact, we were speaking with an expert when it comes to writing the essay. And one of the things that they said that's an important thing is talking about the volunteer work that you're doing for organizations, but giving it an angle of showing kind of your marketing skills that you have to be able to help raise awareness for the nonprofit. So it is a very important thing, and it's a good thing to have younger people to become part of it, to work as volunteers for the nonprofit.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, now for the organization's mission and purpose. Now, I'm going to be repeating this over and over again, and you're going to see it's really not that difficult to do the stuff. Once you see what we're talking about, kind of putting these seeds in place, you're kind of doing it, and you're going to be repeating it over and over again. And when we prepare the application for the clients, we're kind of focusing on this. We're talking about what that elevator pitch is. We're talking about identifying the problem supported by data and what the nonprofit is going to be doing to solve the problem. So a lot of our clients use what we use within that application to help them with their mission, with their purpose, whether they're posting it, whether they're putting it through letters or putting it on their website or social media. And you're going to be repeating this mission and this purpose many times. And of course, we can help you with all of these, from the application to putting this to coming up with a mission, with a purpose, to be able to articulate what it is that you want to do. And again, it's going to be repeated from the website, social media, letters that you're going to be sending from year end to Giving Tuesday, which comes up after Black Friday, and Cyber Monday. It's toward the end of November. And then any updates that you're going to be sending through any forms of social media or letters or emails, whatever it may be. So again, it's going to be repeated over and over and over again. So you're going to see it's not that difficult once you get it started, once you come up with a mission, once you come up with a purpose. And another thing is, you don't have to do it alone, and you shouldn't. Make sure that you have other people with you. So now for website tips. Again, the clear mission statement, as we mentioned to you before, and compelling storytelling, having regular updates with success stories. Tell stories. And if you haven't done any yet, you can still use stories of what you're going to be doing to be able to help others. Remember, it's not about what the nonprofit needs. It's about what the nonprofit will be doing with the money, with the support, with the donations. Make sure it's user-friendly when you have that website with a donation page. And what's important, and Anderson can tell you this, an email subscription option is great. You want to have subscribers for it. And also, Anderson will tell you this too, specify if it's on social media, because all these platforms are extremely effective. Using all of them together can be really effective to help with a nonprofit.
And a lot of the organizations like Google, et cetera, will actually do free advertising for certain types of nonprofits. And if you get out there, you might find that if you're trying to raise awareness or even solicit funds, that you might have an easier go of it if you let them know. And there's probably grant programs. I know there is in Google AdWords, for example, where they'll actually give you free advertising to go out there and try to raise monies.
Yeah. Google Grants has one, and so does Microsoft as well. So each one of them do. So Google's up to $10,000, and Microsoft, they've changed it several times. So I don't remember what the number is. I believe it was around 3,000 at one point, and I know they just changed it.
10,000 a month, right?
Yes, exactly, 10,000 a month for it. So, and there are many webinars and workshops out there that discuss and explain how it's done, as well as how Google Grants works.
They're not just going to give you 10 grand, guys, but they're going to start you. And if you're raising money and you're well rated and people are liking and interacting with your site, they use analytics on all these things, right? Then you'll get more.
Exactly. Yeah. Now the social media, kind of the marketing tips. Again, compelling content, which is the same as the storytelling we're talking about before, and also kind of goes back to the elevator pitch. You want to create all of that through the social media. Engage with the followers. Every time you respond to comments, it does show up on someone's feed. If you like something, it shows up on the feed. So you can always do it this way in terms of, and you always want to make sure that you do respond to messages. And of course, be professional with it and accept responsibility, and don't try to shift the blame and anything like that. And always say, what is it that we can do to get better? Or if you're going to say something like thank you, even include information about what the nonprofit does. Thank you very much. We're going to be having these upcoming fundraising, or we're going to be operating here. We're going to be doing this. We're going to have a food drive, whatever it may be. Anytime you respond with comments, go beyond just thank you, add information, and content about the nonprofit. Uh, Post consistently, use different platforms, because all of these can be effective, especially when you do them together. And of course, the donations. And then finally, as I say this again, as I've been repeating it with everything else, don't do this alone. You can have other people. We mentioned about that family legacy. We mentioned about having family members. Certainly, they're very good and effective with social media. But also, you can do this again with volunteers, bringing in volunteers. Because now, if you have your mission statement, you have a purpose, you have compelling content and storytelling. Now you're letting them know these are the type of volunteers we need to help with these types of things that we're doing within our nonprofit. So now, as you've articulated this, it's going to be easier to bring in volunteers to help with your organization.
Yep.
All right. Emails. Emails are still effective for sure. Very effective. Now, the conversion rate may not be high, but the more subscribers you are, then the more you're going to get in terms of numbers. Again, explain the problem that your nonprofit's addressing. We've said it before, that elevator pitch. What is it that your nonprofit is addressing? Highlight your impact, showing how the organization has made a difference. State what you need and how it will help. We call it the ask. So you're going to be mentioning all of these within the email. It doesn't have to be too long, and I will caution you not to make it too long. Explain the outcome. So again, you're always talking about the results, what you're doing, the activities that you're doing, the impact that you're making. It's not, we need the money to help our nonprofit. It's, this money will help to make an impact within our community. As an example, here's an example for an effective email. We're committed to fighting hunger. Last year, thanks to your generosity, we provided over 10,000 meals. And as we're talking here again about the money you're going to receive, how it's going to help, a donation of $50 can provide meals for a family for a week. So they see kind of the impact of what the contributions can make to help make a difference. And it doesn't require a whole lot to be able to help. And then, of course, click here to donate and to make a difference. So it's not that difficult to do. And, Anderson, we do have lots of these examples of what we can use to help tailor your needs for your type of nonprofit for what it's doing. So we have all of this, the material and the resources for you. There's the year-end letter and Giving Tuesday. Now, just one thing to keep in mind with this, it's not necessarily about just year-end letters. It's not just about Giving Tuesday. Giving Tuesday may be competitive. There may be a lot of other organizations, but what it is it's just something, the ability for you to do something continuously, to keep getting your name out there, to let people know about your organization. And you've been repeating the stuff over and over again. So this is going to be something else you're going to be doing again. And it doesn't take that much time. You just want to start early. You don't wait until the end of the year. Let them know about your organization so that you can get donations throughout the year, or just let them know as you're approaching the end of the year to please think about us. Again, you're talking about the storytelling, the impact that you're going to make using every social media channel. So as you can see, a lot of this is being repeated over and over again. Nothing too complicated about what we're mentioning here and what we're proposing in terms of presenting to the public for what the organization does.
Hey, Karim, do they need to be registered to do solicitations in particular states, or are you able to do this generically online without having to worry about registration?
Well, if you're doing, it's going to depend, but most of the states say you don't have to. Some states may say, and we don't know, we see with California, we see with Virginia, is that if you're going to be getting donations from California residents, then they're going to want you to register. And it's not too difficult to do, but I'll say this, when we tell this to our clients, at a minimum, if you're going to do any sort of solicitation, register in the state where you are incorporated and where you're operating, if that state requires it. About 40 states require it right now. So if your state doesn't require it, you don't have to do it. But if you're,
do you help people do this? If somebody needs help doing their registrations, is that something you can?
Oh yeah, we do that with part of our compliance package that we have.
I'll put a link to you in the show notes so that people can very easily reach out if they need
Okay,
to.
Perfect. All right. Finally, send thank you letters promptly for every gift received. It's important. Let them know how the money, the donations were being used, how the contributions were used, so that hopefully they will make more contributions to you, to your nonprofit. Now, emails, letters, and other posts, do it regularly. Again, with the storytelling, with the impactful programs, with measurable outcomes. And as I'm saying this and I'm repeating it, you're going to see this is very important when we talk about grants. And we're going to talk about that uh, for the next one, the next video that we're going to be doing. You're going to see that these are the sort of things that are really important to show in order to qualify and to receive grants from funders. This is what they want to see. Again, posting them across different platforms, using that elevator pitch, the mission statement, the compelling storytelling, again, whenever you're posting. So these are all important. And as you can see, we've just repeated the same thing over and over and over again, because the reality is it's not that difficult to do. Once you get it started, it's easy to do it across all of these different platforms.
A lot of people don't realize there was a great example of UNICEF when they were struggling raising money. Now we all know UNICEF, but they zeroed in on one little girl, and they said basically, here's how much a day to feed, and all of a sudden their fundraising took off. People need to make it very personal. So when you're telling a story, you're letting somebody actually empathize with something that your organization is doing. So if you're helping veterans, tell a story. If you are raising monies to feed people, tell a story like you were just showing. Is make sure that somebody actually has a personal touch to that, the individuals that are being helped. Please make sure that you're doing that. Don't just say we want to raise money to feed people, right? Nobody's going to give you money. There's too much competition out there. What you need to be able to say is, in our community, here's the people that we're helping. Here's, we call it an avatar, but explain, here's the typical person. Hey, this is Sue. She's got 3 kids through no fault of her own. She's in this situation where where she has food insecurity. For this much money, you're feeding those 3 kids, and you can feel good knowing that you're helping somebody overcome some struggles. Right? You're making it very, very personal and micro, right? As opposed to, hey, let's feed people. Everybody could say that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a great point. You want to make sure, and as we've mentioned before, it is the storytelling, giving general versus telling specific stories. Now it's more emotional. Now they can attach, they understand it whenever you're telling the stories, and they see what an impact it's making, how the money's being used. So they realize that, and they want to help other people as well. So certainly it does make an impact.
It allows them to
Yeah.
care. Yeah, human beings, we do have empathy for each other, but if it's just generic, you're not going to break through all the noise that's out there. You're going to have to be, here's that person, here's their issue, here's how we're helping solve it. And it could be animals, it could be whatever. You apply it to your situation. Work with somebody if you have to, but it makes all the difference in the world when you're breaking it down and actually giving a story to somebody where they can empathize with it.
All right. So essentially summarizing, these are kind of the strategies for success. We've mentioned it before, and everything just kind of comes together with it. Effective boards and volunteers who meet regularly, assigning tasks and holding them accountable, so that you want to see as part of the tasks the mission statement, the purpose, storytelling. We want that to be an important part of it. The websites, so that you can spread this across many platforms, from websites to the emails to letters to social media. And I should mention finally, partnering with other organizations. And I'll mention, with Anderson, and again, I've worked with over 1,000 clients up to this point within Anderson. It is our goal to set up a Facebook page so that this is going to be an opportunity for our nonprofit clients to kind of be part of this page, so that they can feed off others, work with others, collaborate with others, meet up with others, and see, kind of learn from each other and get some expertise from the others, get some tips and pointers from them as well, to see what has worked and what hasn't. So we will be offering something like that in the near future. We're trying to roll this out. So it would be a good thing to partner with other organizations too, to help become successful.
Fantastic. And yeah, we've seen groups, just to give you an idea, we have groups that raise millions of dollars a year, consistently year after year, as public charity doing specific work. We have clients that operate charities that actually generate substantial incomes as well in the area, whether it be special needs housing or how transitional housing, things like that, where these groups are making, in some cases, millions of dollars a year doing that charitable activity. And sometimes it's great to talk to those folks and say, how are you doing it, and what's working, what's not. so that you're not just lost in the woods. And of course, reach out to an organization. I'll say reach out to Karim and his group underneath the umbrella of Anderson, because they see it, they live it each day. This is what they do. They're not out there, practicing litigation and things like that. What they do is they work with nonprofits. And if you want to understand how nonprofits work, talk to somebody who is either intimately involved in running them or is working with nonprofits on a daily basis, as opposed to somebody who just has it as a general part of their practice.
Which leads me to us. Great segue, Toby. You didn't even know that. Our expertise. Look, we've worked with over 1,000 clients in the past 3 years. Every application has been approved up to this point. And we've helped clients who received poor advice. We've seen some that got denied and they came to us and we did it for them and we got them approved within a week. So we were able to explain why it qualified for exemption. Also, classification, improper classification. Some think that a private foundation is the way to go because they're going to have family members. Well, you don't need to have that, especially as you're going to be getting funding. You want to get donations and grants. You don't want to be a private foundation. You want to be a public charity. So some clients have realized later on the mistake that they made. Also, sorry, go ahead.
Let me throw in real quick, because if that confuses you and you go, what's the difference between a private foundation and a public charity? Look at my YouTube channel. There's videos with Karim where I think we address specifically the differences between them, what's one and what's the other. So we're not going to get into it here, but you can go watch that. And there's an in-depth, what are the differences, why they're different, and why we tend to lean on the side of the public charity. It's just so much easier to operate and you get so much more benefit. Your donors get much more benefit, up to twice as much benefit. Yeah. So you want to make sure that you're making an intelligent decision there. So go watch that.
Yeah. All right. And then Anderson, we can set up your nonprofit. We put the bylaws. We have templates for you for meeting minutes, for resolutions. You want to add directors. You want to remove directors. People are going to resign. We have all of that. We have even procedures and policies for reimbursements. We have all these documents that are put together. We prepare everything for you. We also help you to articulate your activities, the purpose, the mission, the storytelling, the impact. You need help. We can do that. We're going to have it tailored to your organization for the activities it's doing. So we take care of everything so that you don't have to worry about it, because that's what we've seen time and time again, is that they just want to go out there and make a difference. They want to make the contribution. They want it to be set up. We're going to do all that for you to make it easy so that you don't have to deal with it yourself. And,
right.
We're putting together a toolkit, which will be coming out as well. We're working on that. And this is just a sample of what you see, from the tips to running meetings. So this is basically everything we've covered today. We have documents, we have articles. We're going to have videos for all of these things as well to cover all these. And as I mentioned before, about numerous letters tailored to your nonprofit. So we have all of these resources, for anyone interested in setting up a nonprofit. And then, of course, we're going to cover some other funding opportunities in future segments too.
Okay. So this is part one of 3 parts we're going to do here. They're going to go through the lifetime and how to work with a charity, 501c3. So I'm going to call it Top Tips for Successful 501c3. This one we'll call Boards, Missions, and Raising Money, and then we'll do 2 other sections. If you are interested in reaching out to Karim, there's his information right there, nonprofits@andersonadvisors.com, and we'll put that link down in the show note as well. If you want a strategy session with Karim, just put down there in the comments, I'd like a strategy session, or just write in strategy session, and we'll send you a link so that you can schedule a time with Karim's team so that they can see whether or not it's a good fit to help you. And just reach on out. Karim, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
If you're watching this on YouTube, like and subscribe. Not you, Karim, but anybody else that's out there. Karim, you could like and subscribe too. We like it. Anytime. It helps the algorithm. And then please share this information with anybody that you know that is that has a nonprofit or thinking of setting up a nonprofit, but that wants to make sure that they're operating it correctly. Go ahead and share it with them so that they have some information on that might help them. And I really appreciate you, Karim. Thanks again.
Thank you.